Jeff Jarrett came out, classic Jeff Jarrett. He was complaining, he was moaning, he was being a badass until he got into a pushing fight with the Tennessee Titans, who the Wrestling Observer tells me is Frank Miller and Zach Pillar. Never heard of these people. I'm sure they're real footballers, unless Dave got the names wrong, in which I'm sorry. But those were the Tennessee Titans that were fighting with Jeff Jarrett, and by all accounts this segment was not supposed to go as it went. It was just supposed to be like a little like fisticuffs, a little pushy push, and then they'd go off the air and Malice would come out. Instead, the Titans jumped the guardrail and started like beating up Jeff Jarrett.
Hell yeah.
And like one of the Titans, whoever the guy that like got into it with Jeff Jarrett, was just like utterly overpowering him and like beating the hell out of him. It was good stuff.
Did you see him call his boys in too?
Yeah, he was just like, Jarrett started making a comeback. He's like, get over here.
The Tennessee Titans not wanting to put over anyone.
Oh dear. Yeah, because by all accounts this caused some consternation within the Titans camp, who were like, they weren't supposed to do this. What the hell? Why were they fighting on pay-per-view? The players got in trouble. It was a big deal.
Do you think TNA was like, yeah, they weren't supposed to?
We did not plan for your boys to get drunk and jump the rail and actually start actively fighting our wrestlers live on pay-per-view.
And beating up our biggest star, you fucks.
Yeah, the guy who we've done everything we can to make look like the biggest badass in the world suddenly gets in there with a couple of footballers and he gets his ass kicked. And then like Malice comes out and Malice doesn't really know what to do and he kind of just gets involved, and
Malice kind of helps Jarrett
because this is meant to set up Malice against Jarrett the next week in a ladder match, except because the Titans are too busy beating the hell out of Jeff Jarrett, Malice is just like help him.
Yeah, it was like the fight or flight, but it was between, do I beat up Jarrett or is it the wrestler's code of honor that I now need to protect him while I'm out here?
This is just TNA chaos, where it's like, we're gonna have a nice little segment where the Titans will have some like pushing back and forth with Jeff, and maybe we'll get some media attention, and no, it descends into chaos where the Titans start brawling with Jeff Jarrett.
It's funny because it's like a lot of this time is like the most TNA things that have happened up until this point haven't even been their fault.
Which is basically the story of TNA history, isn't it?
A lot of the time it does become their fault. These early instances is a lot of bad luck.
To be fair, it got a lot of press for TNA. A lot of the Tennessee stations, a lot of local newscasts covered it, including like outside of Tennessee, like California, Florida, New York. It even made it onto the West Coast edition of SportsCenter on ESPN. So like that's always what wrestling is trying to do. We always mock it. It's like they want their SportsCenter moment, and like they got it. So well done. It went absolutely nowhere because the players got in trouble and they weren't allowed to come back. So like they barely mentioned it on the fifth show expressly because they're like, we can't do anything with this, so we're just going to mention it in passing.
All the wrestlers were like, we have to get them to come back in.
Yeah, there's a hot angle. We got to do a match.
Yeah. Probably would have done well for them too, considering they were based around Tennessee from that point on, right? Or Nashville.
Well, I do wonder, because this show did 1,500 attendance, 800 paid. The next show did 2,000. There wasn't a number for the number paid, but it does say heavily papered. But like there was a jump in attendance of 500 from pay-per-view number 4 to pay-per-view number 5. So I do wonder if there was like a bunch of people being like, oh, this TNA thing, that seems interesting. I'm going to go down to the Municipal Auditorium and check it out next week. And then that brings us to NWA-TNA PPV number 5 from the Municipal Auditorium. As we mentioned, 2,000 people there, as I do some more highlighting badly. 2,000 people were there. I'd imagine that is like a direct result of the media attention they got from the Titans angle, that people actually showed up. Obviously, not that many of them were paid, but nobody were paying for these shows, so who cares?